I will survive. How about I'm going to thrive? That's really what it's about. It's not about surviving. Surviving means we're a victim. And one of the things we talk about every day at Agape is we're not victims. We don't believe in victimhood. We understand there's an infinite power and presence, but it's not outside of us. It's not out here. It's within here. It's within all things. And when we embrace the idea that this power and presence exists within all things, then we understand that the power to create is right where we are. And if the power is to create right where we are, then it's our job to use that power, to come forth from that power, to create the experience that we want in this life. And so today, I'm going to talk about a new spiritual practice. I've never heard a minister in New Thought talk about this practice before. But I'm going to share with you a little story. And it's a story, how many people saw the movie Hitch? Remember this movie Hitch with Will Smith in it? And he's there, and he was working with this accountant who was sort of clumsy and awkward and that type of thing, and he wanted to go with this beautiful, beautiful, wealthy woman. And he had this dream of being with her. And they were in, I think it was Will Smith's apartment, or they were on the steps, whatever it was. And Will was saying, so how are you going to do the first kiss? And, they were sort of role-playing. And, they leaned in and they did all sorts of stuff, but Will said, no. You lean in 90%. Here's the most important thing. When you lean in the 90%, the most important thing in that first kiss is the pause. It's not what you do, it's the pause. Because it centers you into the oneness. It centers you into the moment. It centers all of the intention. So your intention is firmly planted. You're there with this person that you really, really like. And you're about to share your very first kiss, and you pause. You get connected. And in that moment, you're allowing that person to get fully connected, fully present. And then you just lean a little bit, and if it's right, they lean back. So kissing is not my spiritual practice. But pausing is. Because pausing has such benefits that if we sit down and think about it, and we will as we go on, you're going to understand that it's the most single thing that's going to bring you back to consciousness. One of the metaphors, ideas that I used was this, is that let's assume we're in the woods, and we light a match, and we've got a flame. It's just a small flame. What does it take to put it out? Not a lot. You just blow. It's gone. But if you take that match and you light a piece of paper and the flame gets bigger, it takes more to put it out, doesn't it? And so now if you were to light the match, light the paper, and light some kindling, now we've got even a bigger fire, and it's going to take even more. Now if you do the same process again, and to the kindling you add a couple logs. The next thing you know, if there's kindling all around, it may start to spread, and now you got a forest fire. And when you got a forest fire, what's it going to take? A tremendous amount. So the earlier we can catch a thought or the match, and we pause, which puts out the flame, we now are in control of our lives instead of responding in a reactionary way. You see, almost everything we do in our lives is a habit of reacting. It's a conditioning that's been put in us by something other than ourselves. Our parents, our family, our friends, society, church, the movies, the newspapers, television, they all put all these things in, and we automatically respond by habit. Probably 99.9% of what we do is habitual. Think about that. 99.9% about what we do is habitual. When you really contemplate and you look at your life right now, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to see there's very little that I do that I consciously think about. So the only way to get better at this, because that's what creates our lives, is to form a new habit. By forming a new habit, it becomes unconscious, but the habit is directing into that which we want. So think about this. So how do we break these habits? We pause. We pause, and in that moment, things happen. First thing that happens when we pause, we stop a reaction. We give ourselves 2 to 3 seconds in that moment. In that moment, we can delay a response. So if someone asks you a question and you pause, you might reflect, I don't have the answer. And you look at the person and say, I'm sorry, but I don't have the answer, but I'll get back to you. Instead of allowing our egos to take us and immediately react to it, which could cause an argument, a discussion, going in a wrong direction. We've paused and we've done that, okay? The next thing is if we pause, we may decide to understand that we don't really even need to answer. We don't even need to do anything. If we pause, we can then even make an idea. We can take a step and say, this is the way I would have gone, but that's really not what I want, so I'm going to go in a different way. When we pause, we can remember that we're not ego-centered driven, but we are divine, which means we're all interconnected. And how do I respond from a divine interconnectivity? This idea of pausing is so easy and important. But here's the thing. So we've got the idea of the pause, right? But once you pause, what do you do then? You ask yourself questions. The question that I ask that pops up most often is, what would love do? When I'm in a situation, there's something going on, and I want to respond, what would love do? What would be the highest expression of love? How could I be this highest expression of love? How would Christ, how would Buddha, how would Krishna, the great avatars that talk about this idea of love, how would they answer this? The next question you might want to ask is, before I answer, is this even of value to me? Is this really relevant to what I value in life? Because if something is not relevant to us about what we value, why would we give it any energy? See, the key thing to living a principle or success-driven life is understanding who you are. Understanding who you are is you're the oneness individualized, uniquely expressing. And to be authentic in that expression, we've got to ask the question, who are we and what are our values? And if we've determined our values, what we live by, those 5 things, I picked 5 because it's what I've been taught. I picked the 5 things that are so part of who I am that when I'm in a conversation, if it's not relevant to those 5 things, I'm probably not going to be in the conversation. If it's not involved about me getting a deeper experience of oneness, if it's not about teaching the spiritual principles, if it's not about learning more about life, if it's not about interpersonal relationships, and it's not about health, I'm not interested. I'm really not interested. Because my life, the most valuable thing I have in life, in human form, is my time. And so when I pause, I'm taking control of my time. I'm the master of my time. I'm not letting society or others dictate to me how I use my time. When we do that, that is not self-loving. Do you hear that? That's being what? A victim. How many times are we victims in our lives? Most of our days are consumed in being victims because we don't want to be rude by stepping into a situation and claiming our power. It's not being rude. It's being authentic. And so many people talk about being authentic. But being authentic means that you may be in a relationship and you may say no because you have to express what you believe. And you know what? Just because you're in a relationship with someone, whether it's a parent, whether it's a child, whether it's a partner, whoever it is, it doesn't mean you say yes to them. It means you say yes to your values. You say yes to love. You say yes to yourself. And from that, when you become even greater filled, you've got more to give. See, it comes from the idea of pausing and knowing who we are. It's pausing and not allowing our habitual thoughts to control us. And so when we ask these questions are so important because sometimes the question might be, is this any of my business? If someone comes to you and they want to complain about something, we've done talks about this already. They want to come, is this any of my business? Why are you telling me this? Is there anything I can really do about it? Oh, you just want to complain? Well, go talk to the wall. That's basically it. Just go talk to the wall. Because I don't want to be a part of any complaints. Now, if you have a question, if you have an idea that you want to explore, and if you can convey that without emotion, but deliver the facts, and from the facts, then we can move forward and say, how do we take this forward? That's a whole different discussion. Then the question you ask, is it even relevant that I communicate this information? See, that's a really, really good question, because how much of our conversations are truly irrelevant? And they lead us down a path away from what? What we value, what's more joyful, what's more an expression of God. And when I say God, I mean an expression of joy. I mean an expression of that. Because sometimes I keep using the word God because I've gone beyond the idea that God is this being out here and it's judging us. There's no such thing. There's only an infinite power and presence that exists everywhere that allows itself perfect freedom to express. And what it has done is it has created a law of cause and effect. And this law of cause and effect says if you do this, this is the effect. It doesn't matter who you are. There are no favorites or there are no disfavorites in the mind of the infinite. If you put your hand on fire, you will burn, regardless of who you are. If you have negative thoughts, they will draw to it a like energy that will bring in birth into experience. So as we go back to the idea of complaining, of criticizing, of sarcasm, when we put that energy out there, the only thing that comes back to us is a vibrational match of energy. Following. But we have to pause to stop that because it is a habit. Most everyone here has one of these purple bracelets that says we are determined to be complaint-free for 21 days. It's not easy. We're breaking habits we've had all of our lives. It's very uncomfortable. The thing about this is, don't judge yourself. When you complain, just put it on the other wrist and say, day one. And when you complain about that, put it on the other wrist and say, day one. But the thing that I've noticed in everyone that I'm talking to about this idea, this little bracelet becomes a reminder. And it causes us to be more aware. When we become more aware, we pause. When we pause, we ask a new question. Once we've asked the new question, now we can speak, now we can act. You see, what we've done is we've become conscious creators. We've become deliberate creators. We've decided that we were no longer ever going to play small again. We were going to take control of our lives. And in the taking of control of our lives, we were going to dictate to the law what our experience is. So I want to make one point real clear. We don't dictate everything that happens to us. Can I be clear about that? A lot of times when we get into this idea of new thought and we're 100% responsible, things just happen, okay? You could be caught in a flood. You could be caught in an earthquake. You could be caught in a car accident. You can be caught in traffic. We can't control all of that. But what we can control is our response to it, how we deal with it. So the other day, I'm in traffic. And it's backed up, and I had to be at a meeting. And immediately I paused because I'm thinking about my talk. And then what did I do? I reached over, pulled out my mala beads, and said, patience is my divine virtue and gives me great joy. And I proceeded to do it 108 times. And then because it was still traffic, I picked up another affirmation, and I did it. What was I doing? I was using the time that is all the time I've got to fill my mind with thoughts that I have consciously chosen, which is changing my unconscious mind, which is a majority of my mind, which is changing the tendency of my thought or the habit of my thought, so I now create on average or by habit a different experience. So anytime you're being forced to wait, you've got tools that you can use. Isn't that cool? Walk your dog. I walk my dog. I do 10 affirmations or 11 affirmations when I'm walking my dog. That means I'm doing 1,000 affirmations while walking the dog. Here's the great thing about that. I've got my beads out, so I'm walking through our development, which is a magnificent place, and all these people who see me say, what are the beads? I say, I'm shifting consciousness. They say, what's that about? I say, I want to control my experience in life. And they go, tell me more. And you tell them more, and all of a sudden, they've got an interest. You see, you're giving. See, remember, my second top value is teaching. Anything I can do to help others see a truth that might help them become more, that excites me. So I don't hide from what I teach. I don't hide from what I do. I don't worry about what others think. I love this, that when I was in the corporate world, I had to take an executive profile test. The whole management team did, and we had these ratings where you're rated from 0 to 10, 10 being high, 0 being low. And one of the things in it, like sociability, I was rated an 8.5. I'm very social. I'm an extreme extrovert. I love to socialize. There was another category called need to be liked. I was 0.5. I don't really care, because I'm going to be my authentic self no matter what that is. Now, back then, I was more obnoxious than authentic. You know, there's a difference between the O word and the A word. And I've learned that because I can be quite the obnoxious, insensitive individual in my past. Now I'm working to be centered and to be more loving and more caring in that. And yet, I still have habits. I want you to know, just because I'm on a platform and I'm teaching this does not make me not human. I am very human. I'm no different than anyone else. The reason I took reverend out of my title as I talk with people is I don't want to be held to a pedestal. Because if I'm on a pedestal, then you think you're different than me, and you're not. You're all the same as me, and I'm the same as you. And that's what we're about. We come together in community to express love and oneness, that we see each other the same. Agape is an inclusive community. Does that make sense? We include everyone in this community because we understand that everyone is the divine. And in order to do that, we got to pause. Because sometimes when we're meeting someone who vibrates differently than us, we think they're not us. We think they're too radical from us. And we have to really stop and we have to pause. And remember, no, they're an individualization of the infinite. And how perfect is that? One of my favorite quotes from ministerial school when we were taking philosophy was that of Plato. And Plato said this: every morning, empty your brain of all thoughts, and then take each thought by one and examine them, and determine whether or not that thought still serves you. And then if it does serve you, you put it back in. The next day, you do that again. You empty your mind of all thoughts, and you find out what serves you. Pausing allows you to ask the question, is what I'm about to say, is what I'm about to do serving me today? Or is it something that was of value to me in the past that I no longer have? I have a choice not to use now. You see, the power is always within us. It's not in our partner. It's not in our parents. It's not in the government. It's not in our jobs. It's not in our children. It's right where we are. And how we change and shift our mind, and how we take the time to commit to pausing, that we become conscious creators. I'm looking at you. I don't see anyone here that's weaker or stronger than anyone else. What I see here is a perfect point of consciousness that is beyond limitation, that is infinite in every possible way. What we do at Agape is we hold open the idea that everything is possible, and we support you as you create it. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.